And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child. So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. 5 days before Christmas, I've come to the laundromat to wash and dry a heavy guest room bedspread that's too cumbersome to fit in my machines at home. I have designs on the room's only 3-load capacity monster squatting somewhat aloofly in the corner. To my left, a jovial voice bellows, "All finished, Frank? Clothes nice and cleaned again? Have a blessed Christmas, Frank." I struggle across the cracked concrete floor in the direction of the gleaming white labor saver, heave my unruly load onto the battered yellow table, rush back to my car to get soap and coins for the machine's operation. I return, alas, to find an elderly couple stuffing my coveted giant with worn, braided cloth floor mats. Oh, well. "If you ask me," announces the hearty voice, now coming from somewhere toward the end of the building, "people these days have about forgot what Christmas is all about. They've lost the spirit of Christmas." I don't intend to let the next half hour of waiting prove a dead loss. I sit on a beat-up yellow bench and press my back comfortably against the wall. I'll use this in-between time for relaxing, ridding myself of all the pre-Christmas tenseness that's been building in me. I'll think about absolutely nothing. But I find pretty soon that's impossible. Something is crawling around in the back of my mind. A presence. It gnaws at me, but I can't name it. To my right, the voice admonishes, "Have a Merry Christmas, Liz. A wonderful giving time, ain't it? Wish people could keep the giving spirit all year long, don't you?" Ah, now I know what it is. The gaunt-framed person I saw laboring along the roadside as I drove to the laundromat. He's the reason my mind refuses to think about absolutely nothing. A picture of him rushes to the forefront of my mind, ragged and skinny like a toy that has lost too much of its stuffing. A skinny bedroll under his skinny arm. I recall vividly the way his shoulders hunched inward against the peppering snow. Who was he? Why was he on the road? Homeless? Where did he plan to go? These questions chip away at my peace. They haunt me. The white-haired old man watches his mats begin their circling inside the machine's glass door. He touches my arm. "These here contraptions," he says with a charming toothless grin, "sure save a body elbow grease on wash day." I smile at him, nod my agreement. The woman smiles contentedly. Like a fragile, dried-up leaf she is, left over from autumn, but lovely, too. "Over all the years I did a lot of scrubbing on the good old washboard, dear," she tells me. "I'm glad you're able to do it this way for a change," I respond. They sit together, this ancient pair, hold hands, twitter, share giggles about some very private matter. "Merry Christmas," comes that all-pervading voice, perfectly audible over the clinking, bumping machines. "God bless you real good, Mary." The dominant voice is Joe's, I learn, the owner and operator of the laundromat. Huge, rotund, with a Christmas smile that could outshine Rudolph's nose. Joe, moving around the building, handing out fervent Merry Christmases, halts when he reaches the aged lovers. "Well, if it ain't Nellie and Tom," he slaps Tom on the back with such seasonal effervescence I tremble for Tom's continued health. "That blessed time of year again, you two," he announces, "gives me the goosebumps just thinking about it." He ambles away on his good cheer circuit, comes to a young man pulling staticky shirts from a dryer. "Randy, seems like only yesterday you was knee-high to a skunk. Time flies, don't it now? Merry Christmas to you, old man." "I don't go much on Christmas, Joe," Randy returns. "Seemed like a lot of mockery, all the buying and selling." Tom wonders to Nellie whether enough was left of their month's money to buy each of them some warm socks. He slips his worn shoe from his foot and shows her the round, threadbare patch on the heel. Gives a brave-sounding laugh, declares that it will soon be a disaster area. Nellie takes money from her purse and counts $7 bills and a few coins. She says they'll probably be able to manage the 2 pairs of socks. I've been watching Nellie and Tom with interest. Their obvious love for each other enchants me. But their scant clothing worries me. Perhaps I could find out where they live, send them money in the mail, and help towards some new clothing. They need not know who sent it. Joe's voice reverberates through my half-formed intentions. I see he's detained a pretty blonde. You're right, Joe, she says. We shouldn't ever forget what we're supposed to be celebrating. The heavy door opens and a disconcerting wind rushes in, chilling my legs. And then, here comes the man whose presence along the road has disturbed me so much. I see the lean, troubled face, the eyes that reflect a dismaying agony. My heart gives a pitying lurch. What has gone on in this young man's life? What is going on to cause such obvious pain? Why is he, well, so alone? I smile at him. He stares back warily, in a way that says clearly, it's all right for you, lady. Just try being me for a spell. What do I have to smile about? He sits on a nearby bench, tucks a grimy blanket and cracked piece of plastic tablecloth neatly underneath, stretches out his long legs, closes his eyes. Almost immediately he seems to be asleep. Joe, working his way around the building, again spreading Christmas cheer, spots the recent arrival and stops motionless as a lump of lead. A steely aura surrounds him now, sniffing out all that seasonal warmth. Joe jabs the stranger on a shoulder, housed in an inadequate sports coat. You there, Joe shoots his words at the young man. What are you doing here? You got some sort of business in this place of mine? The stranger springs alert, a startled expression in eyes that are pools of accumulated pain. I know now I'll remember the expression in those dark eyes forever. No answer for Joe. Nellie and Tom have drawn noticeably closer to each other. I see agitation, disappointment etched clearly on their wrinkled faces. Their terrible letdown at the change in Joe causes me pain. On Joe's face is an angry blush. If you got no business to do in my place, then you pick yourself up and get out. Fast, understand? The stranger stoops dazedly and picks up his meager comforts, staggers upright, and with halting steps, as though his feet are full of slivers, he moves in the general direction of the door. Joe's voice darts after him. If you know what's good for you, mister, you get out of town, on the double. You're not wanted here, see? I'm conscious of whispers between Nellie and Tom. She opens her scruffy black purse, takes out the $7 bills, scrunches them in her knobby little fist, makes her tottery but hurried way past Joe, catches the rejected young man before he can get his frame and bedroll through the door, and presses the money into his hand. Ever so gently, she closes the door after him. She goes back to Tom, who hugs her and kisses her cheek where a tear glistens. The laboring steel and porcelain colossus charges into its roaring spinning phase, clicks, rests from its great effort, then begins its second rinse cycle. Nellie says to me, sorry you've had to wait, dear, but it won't be long now. Joe's voice booms loudly, too loudly. Can't have the likes of that greasy good-for-nothing loitering around. Don't seem safe if you ask me. He turns abruptly to a woman coming through the door. Well, if it ain't Mrs. Mason, a blessed Christmas to you. If ever there was one who knew all about the Christmas spirit, it's you, I always say. Forever doing something for someone, Christmas or not. I help Nellie and Tom carry their wet mats to the dryer. I'm wrestling my bedspread into the proficient giant when Joe spots me and comes to give last-minute assistance. Slams the machine door for me. His charity firmly in functioning order again, he says, have a nice Christmas, God bless you. I sit watching the water level rise in the machine and the bedspread begin its circling. All the time, a raw and terrible ache lies within me for the sent-on-his-way stranger, those eyes. Joe's voice continues, the best Christmas ever, Alec. Happy holidays to you and yours. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. Let's join in singing the chorus, Tell Me the Story of Jesus. Let's learn the real story of Jesus. Number 152. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and have come to worship him. And behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. There were 19 people at the party, 5 sopranos, 7 altos, 4 basses, and 3 tenors, to be exact. The annual choir get-together always drew a good turnout, but because they preferred singing to eating, there was food to spare. Doug and Sylvia looked over the half-empty platters of egg rolls and sandwiches. The buffet still held trays of cookies, and a cake had gone untouched. "What are we going to do with all this food?" Sylvia said as the door closed on the last tenor. "If the kids were coming home for Christmas, there would be no problem, but with just the 2 of us." "A block party?" Doug offered. "Everybody's giving parties this week. Nobody needs it. I wish I could send it all to Calcutta. Such a waste." "You don't have to go that far. Somebody around here ought to be able to use it." Doug's remark set them to thinking. An orphanage, maybe? A retirement home? But how do you just take a platter of food to somebody and say, "Here's some leftover food. Have a happy Christmas"? No, you don't do that. How about the night people? Doug suggested. Policemen, foremen, ambulance drivers? We could take it now while it's fresh. It was so like their young married days when, if they felt like it, they'd go sledding at midnight. Sylvia laughed. "You're serious." "Why not? We don't even know a policeman." "We know where to find them, don't we?" Jim Peterson was waiting for car number 72. It was on his way back to the station after breaking up a domestic quarrel. The officers had been roughed up a bit and would need to change clothes. Jim felt the tension in his shoulders ease. After 16 years on the force, it should be routine by now, but it was never routine. More officers were cut up responding to marital fights than hurt on the streets. As dispatcher, he always felt responsible. He used to think that policemen and glory were connected somehow. He used to fantasize he'd be the neighborhood cop that everyone loved, the officer who was fair, the policeman who was honest. And for 16 years he'd tried to be all these things, so what did he get? Pig written on the side of his car. That's what. Eggs on the windshield. A brick in the middle of his back when he was trying to rescue a woman during a riot. For some reason the bitterness had been overwhelming them lately. What made people so vicious around Christmas anyway? Why waste the rest of his life on a job that was unappreciated? The idea of retirement enticed him again. Get out while he was still ahead. The station door opened and he saw a couple coming toward him with a box. Bomb. That was his first idiotic thought. No, not so idiotic. They come in all kinds of containers these days. "Merry Christmas," the woman said, smiling, setting the box down on his desk. "We just thought we'd stop by and say thank you for being here in case we ever need you." Inside was a homemade cake. Lucy Stevens glanced at the clock as she walked through the lobby with her mop. 12:30. She wasn't supposed to go through the lobby, but at this hour no one would notice. She rang the bell for the elevator and leaned heavily against the wall, watching the light on the panel descending. If she didn't bake cookies tonight after she got home, she might as well forget it. Maybe it was time the kids learned she couldn't be a full-time parent and full-time employee at the Drake Hotel and still do all the things they expected of her at Christmas, especially since Charlie was gone. When you're 30, you don't think about being a widow till it happens. Charlie didn't think of it either. That's why there was no insurance and fewer presents under the tree. That's why there would probably be no special cookies this year either. She was bone tired. Someone tapped her arm. "Excuse me," said a man, "but we just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas." And he placed a plate of cellophane-wrapped cookies and sandwiches in her hand. Lucy stared at him. There was a woman smiling at her over by the door. How did they know? Why did they care? "Merry Christmas," she said, still staring, and the couple disappeared through the revolving door. Tom Verona wheeled the empty bus into the terminal, gave it a final pump of gas to make sure it would start again for the next shift, and leaned back against the driver's seat, letting out a weary ugh. It was as much for what lay ahead as for what was behind him. Christmas and no place to go. Not since he'd left home saying he'd never come back. That's what was wrong with ultimatums. They were made in the heat of anger. Still, his old man made him mad. Back in Italy, he'd say, not once but 4 or 5 times a day. Back in Italy, Dad didn't have half the advantages he had here, but he never talked about that. All he knew was that his son was never around when he needed him. Dad didn't seem to realize there wouldn't be a color TV or a vacation at the beach or a station wagon in the driveway if Tom weren't working the night shift and as many charter trips as he could manage. This was America, the land of opportunity, but you definitely had to work for what you wanted. What his parents wanted, though, was his time. They wanted closeness and laughter and big family dinners like back in the old country. He sighed again. So what had he done? In the middle of an argument, he'd simply packed up and walked out. Merry Christmas. Most of what they missed in America, he discovered he missed too. Strange what a night's sleep in a cheap hotel will do for one's perspective. Still, he had gone. He said he wouldn't go back. To turn around and do it now would be giving in. He unhooked his cash box, picked up his coat from the rack above, and opened the door. As he stepped off the bus, he thought he saw his parents coming across the terminal. No, this couple was younger. He was hallucinating. But what did they want at this hour? Directions, probably. And suddenly the woman was putting something in his hands, an aluminum pie plate filled with egg rolls and other delicacies. "Merry Christmas," she was saying. "We had a party and more food than we could possibly eat. We'd like to share it with somebody." And then they were gone, and he stared down at the plate in his hands, still warm from the oven. 2 people he didn't even know had gone out of their way to share something with him. It was the time for sharing, time for giving up grudges, for making peace. He walked over to the payphone on the corner and called home. "Well, we did it," Sylvia said as they drove up the dark street. "I'm sure they all thought we were crazy, but it was fun." Probably didn't mean a thing to any of them, Doug agreed, but who cares? It's Christmas. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing some have unwittingly entertained angels. Angelic agencies, though invisible, are cooperating with human agencies, forming a relief association with men. Is there not something stimulating and inspiring in this thought that the human agent stands as a visible instrument to confer the blessings of angelic agencies? Let's sing together number 143, Silent Night. same country, shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And behold, the angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were greatly afraid. Then the angel said to them, Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be the sign to you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling cloths, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. Now let our accompanist choose a final song. Yes, it's good. What number? 121. Go tell it on the mountain. We'll join the angels in telling it, and the shepherds. Father in heaven, we thank you so much that Jesus came. We thank you that Jesus was born, and we want to tell it on the mountain, share it with everyone we can. We thank you for spending these closing hours of the Sabbath with us, and we ask you to go with us through the week ahead. We want to take the presence of Jesus with us in everything we do and say. Amen.